So now we're going to talk about the gas tax in Manitoba. Everyone was expecting it to come back. There was lots of, I mean, even the Canadian Taxpayers Federation was saying, "Oh, you've got to keep the gas tax in place. You got to keep it there." But I mean, it's 300 plus million dollars. And I, for one, I didn't think that they would keep it going. I don't think you can afford to keep that gas tax off right now because that's a revenue source. But gentlemen, what do you think? We'll start with you, Royce. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind in principle the idea of tax holidays. And even the federal government, they were supposed to have or this short kind of holiday on federal taxes. I don't mind the idea. I think it's actually a nice gesture. It shows that governments are in tune with the needs of people. It's kind of it's a gesture. I agree that in Manitoba, with your point, Kevin, I don't think the government can afford this moving forward. I mean, there's just way too much pressure on provincial services right now, and so ending it is the right move. I think from a political perspective, uh, the problem with these holidays, they have to come to an end. Like he extended it, but eventually it was going to come to an end. People are going to feel it in January. They're going to be mad about it. And so you sometimes wonder if it was even worth it from a political perspective at all. But yeah, it's a good thing that it's coming to an end. I think that's the wise decision.
Well, I think Jeff, before we started taping, Jeff, you had made a really good point that it's not just the gas tax that's going to hit people on January 1st. There's much more.
A whole lot of things, and this will be in tomorrow's column in the Winnipeg Sun, because the federal and we don't know. There's some caveats here when the next federal election is going to be, and whether Pierre Poilievre makes good on his promise to gas the carbon tax and how quickly he can do that. But it's due to go up again on April the 1st, and so that's a tax that's going up. Provincially, also, the school tax rebate is being dropped from all businesses and cottage owners. Your secondary residents, you're not going to get your school tax rebate. In the city of Winnipeg, of course, the mayor has insisted that we have a property tax increase of just under 7%, which is like a massive increase, and insists that he has no wiggle room at all in the budget, which is strange credulity. It strains credulity, to be quite honest with you. So we're going to be hit with a whole lot of new taxes. And when the carbon tax goes up, everything goes up, right? Because that's the cost of transportation. In fact, when this fuel tax goes up next Wednesday, that's going to increase the price of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because as the boys in the transportation business say, if you bought it, a truck brought it. And trucks have to fill up on gas. And so the price of everything is going to go up. It's not just gas. Everything is going to go up. And so I think it's going to be a challenging year for Manitobans in 2025 and people right across the country.
Well, I can confirm your thoughts because we're already hearing at the Winnipeg Sun, we're already hearing from transportation companies, cost is going to have to go up for paper, get the ink to the building has to go up. All of this is going up. Everything has to go up. And really, they're not in line with how wages are going up across the country. And we're not getting that balance. And it goes back to what we talked about, like you said, Gillingham saying that there was no room to cut. I don't buy that for a heartbeat. I don't buy that for a second. I think again, it gets back to what Royce said, though. There's really people are kind of like, yeah, like governments run a debt. Oh, we can always, and then you hear people, we can afford to pay more. Who are these people that think we can pay more in property taxes? Like, I haven't met one person on the street yet that has said to me, actually, you know what, Jack, my property taxes, I can pay a lot more. I'm good paying a lot more because it doesn't happen. Nobody wants to pay more.
Yeah, one of the problems, of course, is this old-fashioned funding model for the city. I mean, they don't really have any choice other than to raise property taxes if they want to boost revenues. There's lots of other models in other provinces where provinces transfer money, they transfer tax points to to city governments. Here in Manitoba, of course, we have the problem that the provincial government is just as cash strapped. And so they are reluctant to do that, maybe understandably so. They've got healthcare costs. Really, it's the federal government that just has too much money. No one really knows what they're spending it on. They're running deficits. We should find a better way of redistributing revenue in this country, and it's probably long past time for that to happen, so we can avoid these ridiculous giant tax increase on homeowners. It's going to hurt a lot of people that are, living month to month. Like, wow, that kind of tax increase, how are you supposed to deal with that if you're just barely making it as is?
Well, Royce, let me ask you, as an economist, why in Manitoba have we fallen so short of trying to grow our economic base, which grows the tax base, which reduces the stress on the middle and lower income earners so that they don't have to get hammered? I mean, why are we not? Maybe the old Selinger government, the phrase that they used every time somebody opened their mouth was grow the economy, but I don't see any sign that we actually did that.
Yeah, I don't want to claim to be an economist. The economists will get mad at me
Well,
if I let
okay,
that
but
go.
yeah, but as
I
a
don't know.
poli sci guy, I mean, what is it? Why have we fallen so short? Again, both you guys to talk about this. That we seem to have almost no ambition here to try to grow our own economy and to
Yeah.
flourish. I mean, we're still, as I've talked about in the paper, we're still so dependent on transfer payments, which was never supposed to be a permanent solution to any province's economic problems. It was supposed to be to help a province over some difficult times to make sure that our education and healthcare services and that sort of thing were roughly equivalent to what they are elsewhere in the country. But we are permanent welfare recipients.
I'll jump in. Let me jump in because my experience as a city councilor and my short-lived experience as an MLA, I really believe for the 100% that people elected in office will just try to buy votes. It's all about buying a vote, right? They want to stay in power. They want to hang on to power. They can come after me and attack me all they want, but I was in the rooms. I know what people are. They're not trying to make decisions that are necessarily best for the province. And I'm not saying they're doing it to be evil, but they're thinking about themselves. They want to get reelected. Why you go into an election? You saw all the spending promises that the Conservatives were making, and you sit there going, "How are you going to pay for that? Like, where's that money going to come from?" But you see it also at the city, like for any counselor not to stand up and say, maybe we shouldn't have doubled their expense accounts to go on trips and travel and hire more staff, doubled their expense account. And then they get raises every year. I mean, these are low hanging fruit. I get it. But that whole discussion of cutting never happens. I've never met a politician yet that I've sat down with and say to me, yeah, you're right. Like I fought for zero-based budget reviews. I'll still fight for them until my dying breath because it worked in Calgary there years ago. They saved hundreds of millions of dollars. But trying to introduce it here in Winnipeg, oh my gosh, it was like I was trying to become the 51st state. Like every councillor was against me. Everyone was against the whole model. Like you can't cut expenses. You can't do that. That doesn't work. Like we're a government. We spend differently than companies. So, and maybe I'm wrong, Royce, but in my experience as a politician, and people say, why did you want to get out of it? Why did you not like it? Like, that's why. Because you're sitting in a room by yourself going, well, why can't we save a dime where we can save a dime? Why are we paying $3 for something when I can go buy it tomorrow for $1? But that was acceptable. I think that's our biggest problem.
Yeah, so the Manitoba economy is pretty diversified, and that's a good thing in some ways. It means that we're insulated from like the kind of Alberta boom and bust. But I do think, Jeff, that you identify the transfer payments. It is a problem. Like when you're a politician, you've just got money coming in. There's not a great incentive to do things that are going to imperil that or that take chances in order to rise above that natural resource development. There could be much more of that in this province than there is, but as we've seen, that's a hard path for politicians, even if the outcome could be great for the province. It's a very difficult thing to pursue for politicians. And the question is, why would you do that if you've just got free money coming in and it's going to increase every year?
But you know what? At the city of Winnipeg, and I hate to jump in, there's three different arms of economic development, right? There's Centerport, and I guess now if you look at or Center Venture and then Centerport, we'll put that off to the side. But the three would be Center Venture. There's the Economic Development Winnipeg, and then the municipal government has their own economic development office. And what have they brought? If you look in the last 5 years, what major companies have come to Winnipeg? I mean, they celebrate when True North wants to buy a building and said, look what we're doing. Look at the economic activity. Well, that's based on two people. David Thompson and the one who's investing most of the money there, right? So I really think that our priorities are wrong, and I get the spending, and I get very upset about that. But also economic development. How do you expect a company to want to move to Manitoba when you've put in legislation that says they can't continue to do business if somebody goes on strike? That's going to make it really hard for businesses to come here. We are the only city in Canada that has a business tax. Why would you want to open a business here and pay a business tax when you can go somewhere else and not pay it? And if you all like, I just don't think we're creating the environment, or we have the political will or the knowledge within our political leaders to build an environment for growth, to build that environment that people want to be a part of. I wrote an article a while ago about the venture capitalism, or venture capital investment. We were lower than Guelph, Ontario, substantially lower.
Yeah, and that attitude, the sort of the anti, it's really kind of an anti-business attitude. I'm talking to Dave when Dave Angus was head of the Manitoba Chamber of Commerce 20 years ago. He's telling me the same things that Chuck Davidson will tell you today. That we just don't, we just haven't opened the doors to that kind of economic growth.